Kwesi Adofo-Mensah's second draft class is complete, and we're here now to talk about the 6 new players and more. Welcome inside TCO Studios. I'm Tatum Everett alongside Viking analysts Ron Johnson and Gabe Henderson. And guys, a 6-person draft class at the end of the day. Let's take a look at what those picks were. Rounds 1, of course, we talked about Jordan Addison on Friday, so we're not going to dive too much into him. We're going to be talking about the 5 guys at the back half of the draft class. And what we're really going to focus on are the draft grades. And so here's a shot of a couple of the draft grades from around the country, some national experts. The average, I'm not great at math, but we're going to go with like a B-C is what they're really giving the Vikings right now. So Ron, overall, how do you feel about B-C for the Vikings draft class?
I think it's a solid pick. I think B is accurate, but honestly, you don't know. That's the real thing about these draft grades. I don't say I hate them. I get it. You try to give a grade, but here's the thing. In 2021, the New York Jets got a grade of an A+ in the first round. And we know what happened with their quarterback after that. They've only had, I think, in that 2021 draft class, there's only 2 players on that draft that contributed to the team and are still on the roster. So does it matter? It depends on the player. I think you look at like Justin Jefferson, you look at what Jordan Addison can do. Jordan Addison can go around and have a 1,000-yard season. It's an A. Blackman can be one of the top corners as a rookie. It turns into an A. So it's all about the players. Roy, again, he could be a solid contributor in all 16, 17 games. See what I'm saying? So I get the grade, but you don't know what these players are going to do. You don't know what dog is in their heart and how they're going to come out and play.
Yeah, Jim Nagy, part of the Reese's Senior Bowl executive director, wrote an I. He's like, this is the grade I give most teams for the first 2 years, an incomplete.
Yeah.
Gabe, when you look at the draft grades, what they say about them, what do you take away from what they say?
I never really take away too much simply because you don't know what you're getting from those guys in year 1 or year 2. It takes about 3 years, like everyone says, for you to actually understand what player you're getting. Yeah, Justin Jefferson, he was an A. He's been an A since he's been in the league. But at the same time, if you would have graded his first 2 games his rookie year, it's like, I don't know about that pick. That guy might be a C right there. So I don't really think too deeply into it. There is a lot that goes into how a player fits within a scheme versus how they use them versus another team. So I like this Minnesota Vikings draft class, but one thing that really stands out to me is the potential of what they can be when the opportunity is given. So we'll see what that looks like after rookie minicamp and then once the season gets going, but really can't buy into it right now.
Yeah, and despite all that, we're still going to talk about those grades. So we're going to dive right into Mel Kiper. He gives it's his 40th NFL draft.
Congrats, yeah.
Congratulations. So this is his.
No, I'm just Dan Orlovsky's comment when they said something about Mel Kiper and him didn't agree.
Okay.
And Orlovsky's comment was just a funny to me, and it was kind of who would you believe, me or Mel Kiper? So that's why. But that was just more of a Dan Orlovsky joke.
I don't mind Mel Kiper's grade here. He gives the Vikings a B. He said that this is a small class, but Jordan Addison fills a massive need. He's curious to see how much Makai Blackman can play as a rookie. But one thing I highlighted from what he said, his favorite selection was 7th rounder Duane McBride, saying the running back is a top 100 prospect on his board. Here's what McBride said to the media right after he was drafted on day 3.
I'm going to give it out to my dad. He always told me, never let one man take you down. So, I just ran with it. And plus, I've been through a lot in life. So, just going through all that and just taking it to the field. And I love football. It felt like home. I feel like I can come here and, help the team out. And I don't care if it's special team, playing running back, whatever it is, I'm going to come in here and help the team out. I just felt like it was home. Also, they showed me love. And I kept real when they kept real with me and told me what it was.
Clearly a guy who's passionate about football and also passionate about being strong. He squats 550 pounds. Complete mind blown there. He was also a top 30 visitor alongside Jordan Addison and Makai Blackman. Ron, how do you feel about adding McBride to the running back room?
I think it's key. When you look at weapons, and again, in the NFL, every team has certain things they're going to do. I truly believe the Minnesota Vikings want to find more ways to get the balls in the playmaker's hands. Now, whether he contributes in year 1 or whether this is, grab and stash, and then if Dalvin Cook moves on, he is now in this offense alongside Alexander Madison. But when you watch his game tape, those legs, you talk about the 550 pounds, it shows. He's not coming down with one guy. One guy is not going to bring this kid down. He gets through he gets skinny is what they call it. He's able to get through gaps. that you don't think he can get through. And then at times it looks like 2 or 3 guys have him tackled and he comes out the back end. So a playmaker like that, again, 21 years old, because a lot of questions were like Mo Ibrahim or McBride. Mo Ibrahim came off injury and he's 24 years old, 25 years old. So this guy is young, he's strong, he can run. And I do like the pick. I think he's a guy that can catch the ball as well, and that's key for a running back.
Yeah, speaking of catching the ball, that's something that Kevin O'Connell said a lot. UAB didn't use Duane McBride in the backfield as far as a pass-catching running back. So the fact that we've passed the ball a lot more to our running backs, that's an underrated area to his game. I think another underrated area of Duane McBride's game is his balance. Just look at the film, turn on the tape. When he's getting tackled, he's bouncing off of guys, spinning off of guys, and he's able to get to his center of gravity in a split second. And for a running back to be able to cut, to be able to jump, to spin, and still be able to push off that back leg and go forward in like a lickety-split second, that says a lot about a running back. So to get that guy in the 7th round, I know a lot of people say still. This guy's a still of the draft. Jordan Addison said he is a still of the draft also. But to get a running back like Duane McBride in the 7th round, that is a complete value pick.
Yeah, he averaged 155.7 yards per game last season. Really special guy to have him fall where he did. A couple of draft experts saying he even fell 2 rounds later than where they expected him to be. One of those guys who actually said that was Chad Reuter from NFL.com, and he has an A- for this Vikings draft class. He highlights Jay Ward is a tough-minded safety who can play some nickel for the Vikings. Jaquelin Roy was an excellent value in the 5th as an active interior defender. And Gabe, we can talk about Ward first. These 2 guys out of LSU, they know each other, they've played together, they were drafted within picks of each other. What do you think about Ward?
I think this is another family affair for this Minnesota Vikings team. You get
Feels
2
like it.
USC guys in the first 2 rounds, well, first 2 picks, and then 2 LSU guys. But Jay Ward, a guy that you can put anywhere on the field. Like, he can play nickel, he can play slot, he can play safety. There was a play where he's on the opposite hash in the goal line, so there's less room to move, and he makes a play on the opposite sideline to bat a ball down. So his range is already seen on film. I believe, if he doesn't start on defense, he's a 4 special teams type of guy. Punt return, kick return, punt team, kick team. You can use him in so many different areas of the game, and the fact that he's going to get in and gain some weight, get in this strength program, that's only going to add another layer to his game. So I like Jay Ward. I know Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and Demetrius Washington said he kind of reminds him of Jimmy Ward, who plays for the San Francisco 49ers, and how they utilize him in so many different areas. So versatility, that's the name of the game, and that's what Jay Ward is.
He also blocks kicks, which is great. We've seen what Josh Metellus can do. Might have some competition on the team when Jay Ward joins along. Now, joining Jay Ward is Jaquelin Roy, his former LSU teammate. What do you think of that? I think there are a lot of experts who really like where the Vikings were able to get Roy there in the 5th round.
Well, I mean, look at the Eagles and the Steelers. They got a ton of Georgia Bulldogs. Well, for the Minnesota Vikings, you might as well go get a bunch of LSU Tigers. Because, I mean, it does create an automatic person that you are comfortable with, that you know, that it's like, I mean, even with Jordan Addison, knowing some Pitt players here, that's going to help him. And then he brings his USC teammate with him. So, again, it's about familiarity, being in a building. And when you think about his size, 6'4", 315 pounds, Harrison Phillips, and we think Harrison Phillips is a big guy. He's only 307 to 310. So this guy has 5 pounds on him. So you're going to have 2 big bodies that you can move and shift. 2 guys that can play opposite each other in the 3 technique. If you want to shade the guard, if you want to double up on a center guard, there's a lot of stuff you can do within this. And again, everybody keeps talking about Brian Flores and his multiple set defense. What does that mean? It means a lot. It means he's going to have a lot of different players in different positions. And I think that's the key. Nothing against pass defensive coordinators. I'm not even say names. But you don't want it to be vanilla to the point where the quarterback comes to the line of scrimmage and every time he's like, I know this front, I know what we're doing. I think you get a lot of production. When you watch the film, he's strong, he's physical, and he's violent. I think that's the key. Violent hands. He has that double club move where he can violently just get a guy out the way. And I saw him chase a Georgia Bulldog down the field 5 or 6 yards and make a tackle. So he can run too.
That's good.
How big was the Bulldog?
That was good. That was a good one. And Roy does obviously address a huge need for the Vikings after Dalvin Tomlinson went to Cleveland. Now taking a look at Pro Football Focus's grade for the Vikings, a B-, and this stuck out to me. One of PFF analyst Sam Monson's favorite players in the draft was Makai Blackman. He said he's coming off by far the best season of his college career. and he missed only 2 tackles in 2022. This pick, Kwesi is very high on. He said that as much. He thought that maybe he was even first round potential, that he was very high on the Vikings draft board. So knowing that there were several corners available at that time, why do you think Blackman jumped off the page for Kwesi, Ron?
So it goes down to the scouts. Honestly, like I know I play with Chisholm Oprah. You know, when you talk about the scouting group and what they do, it's their job to watch the film and then fall in love with a guy. There's no rhyme or reason to it. My dad was an NFL scout back in the 80s. So I grew up in this. When you watch a guy and you see his body type, you see him at pro workouts, you go out to their pro day, you see him at the combine, you just fall in love with a guy's body type. And my guess is, as the DB coach and Brian Flores and what this defense wants to look like, he has a type. Some of these taller guys that we thought were his type were not. It's Makai Blackman, it's Byron Murphy. You know, it's the same type of guy. And this is a kid, again, he can play and chase a guy across the field, and he's confident. If you don't have confidence as a cornerback, you're done. I've seen a lot of cornerbacks come through this door and they lose their confidence and then they lose their edge. This is a kid that, you know, he puts the ninja emoji on for all of his posts. He wears the ski mask and it's time to rob a bank. Like all that, you have to have that swag. People say it's cocky, but you got to have it.
It's a mindset.
And it's a mindset, and the guy that helped him with that mindset is first-round draft pick Jordan Addison.
Yeah.
They've been going
Every
against
day.
each other one-on-one the past year. And Makai Blackman, if you just turn on the film, like it honestly looks like he's at wide receiver. Like he's running the routes for those receivers. And the way the quarterback is placing the ball, it's just like, hold on, is that Makai playing receiver or is he playing DB? So I'm excited just to see how that translates to the NFL, because when you look at guys that can kind of mirror a wide receiver's route, that one thing says, one, he already has good eyes, and 2, he has good patience. He only runs a 4.47. Yeah, that's fast, but that's not a 4.3 receiver. So you have to have good eyes, good discipline, and good awareness if you want to be Makai Blackman and be successful in this Brian Flores man defensive scheme.
And he's very stingy, only allowing 47.6% of the passes thrown his way to be caught.
And the one thing I will say, people talk about his height. He went against a 6'5" receiver and a 6'3" receiver and held his own. So
There you go.
it's good.
Well, going to the other side of the ball, on offense, PFF had this to say about quarterback Jaren Hall, who the Vikings took in the 5th round. He's an excellent athlete who's undersized with mediocre arm strength. He has the luxury of sitting behind Kirk Cousins, who wins with smarts and moxie. Hall will need to show the same traits against NFL pass rushes if he hopes to succeed long term. So I know that that first sentence wasn't great, but he brought it around and said, like, put him in a room with Kirk Cousins and he can really learn. Our resident film expert, Pete Bursich, has a film room session now on Jaren Hall.
Thank you, Tatum. Now, it only takes a couple of plays on film to understand why Kwesi and Coach O'Connell like Jaren Hall, and we have a couple of them right here. The first thing you're going to see about this guy is he's smart. The running back motions himself out of the backfield, but the key is who goes and covers him. The linebacker comes out of the box and covers him. That way he knows this is a man-to-man situation, and it's going to empty the flat, and that's going to become important right here. So once he takes the snap, watch this slot receiver. The receiver comes up, he takes this break. This guy's running a vertical to clear. He knows right away. He knows before this guy is really in his break where he is going to go and that this flat is going to be open. So it's his intelligence and adapting on the field that makes this throw possible. And then on top of it, this is from the far hash all the way out to the numbers, hits the receiver in stride, and because of that, the receiver's able to turn up, avoid a couple of tackles, and get in the end zone. All right, another example of his pre-snap acumen. This is a big play, 3rd and 12 against Oregon. Huge play. Pressure's on. What's Oregon going to do? They're going to show blitz up top. You got the DB and the linebacker walking up. However, once the ball is snapped and Jaren Hall gets to the top of his drop, he notices it's the nickel down here at the bottom that actually blitzes. Everybody else is dropping back in their zones. Nobody's open. The sticks are right here. Nobody's open. So what does he have to do? Buy himself some time. And what he does is pulls this thing down and sprints to the outside, gets outside the blitzing DB, finds the tight end open just past the sticks, moves the chain, gets the first down. He moves to extend the play, not just to run. Back to you, Tatum.
Thank you, Pete. It's great to see Jaren Hall's mobility. Ron, how do you feel like he will assimilate into this quarterback room here in Minnesota?
Well, I mean, he's a high character guy. I think that's first. I think him and Kirk Cousins are going to get along just well. He's smart. He's a smart guy. When you think about Jaren Hall, though, he brings something to that quarterback room that you don't have right now, which is mobility. You saw that in Pete's plays. It's moving after the first play is there. So that secondary play, ability to scramble, throw the ball. Some of the comments you brought up, that's exactly what people said about Russell Wilson. They just said Russell Wilson's arm was a little stronger, but it's the same thing. He was mundane. He was very blah. You know, it was just, who is this guy? And he's still blah. People still think he's a corny, you know, guy. But Russell Wilson is a good quarterback. So the same issues people had with Russell Wilson, he became a great quarterback. So I think for Jaren Hall, he's going to get to learn from Kirk Cousins, and I think that's the key. But his mobility, his arm strength, a guy like Kevin O'Connell, who seems to be a quarterback whisperer early on, I think he can turn this guy into a weapon.
To me, that's the bigger point right there, right? Like, it is important to learn under Kirk, but having Kevin O'Connell as your quarterback coach is also going to be so vital in his maturation.
The best head coaches in the NFL, or just in football in general, are backup quarterbacks. And Kevin O'Connell just understands the game. And the fact that I say that because backup quarterbacks, they see the game from an entirely different perspective. They're basically tasked with seeing the game the way the starting quarterback does, but also breaking it down. So when the starting quarterback gets to the sideline, it's like, okay, this is what you got to do to go from there. So Jaren Hall, I believe he's going to benefit well from that mindset of Kevin O'Connell being that backup. Hey, this is how I want you to see the game. This is how you can present it to Kirk. And that's only going to make Kirk take that next step in his game. So yeah, I was a little salty that a lot of those plays were against my Liberty Flames. But at the same time, if you're placing footballs in areas like that, no matter who the team is, that deserves a highlight reel. So I'm excited what Jaren Hall can do in purple for this Minnesota Vikings team.
One thing I didn't think that we would really be going over more in depth on this show would be a couple of the undrafted free agents that the Minnesota Vikings picked up. We love those kinds of stories, right? Adam Thielen, CJ Ham, we've seen how successful their careers can be and what they've done at training camp to prove they belong in this league. And now there's a group of 15 that are coming in to rookie mini camp throughout training camp in this summer. And I want to highlight two names that are creating some buzz across the country. Both are in the linebackers room, starting with inside linebacker Ivan Pace Jr. out of Cincinnati. He's number 2 on Todd McShay's top 25 undrafted free agents list from this draft and was a unanimous All-American this season. And then there's also outside linebacker Andrew Carter II out of Army, who's 13th on that same list. He didn't score well at the combine, but he's 6'6", 256-pound edge rusher who recorded 15.5 sacks a year ago. What's to like about these two guys, and why are people saying these are such great pickups? Because they weren't able to hear, they didn't get to hear their name, which is obviously a whole other story we can get to, but these two in particular.
Yeah, I played with a guy by the name of Bart Scott, and he was undrafted at the Baltimore Ravens the same year I was there, and Bart came in right away, made a name on special teams. The minute he was able to play with Ray Lewis and Ed Hartwell, he just broke out, and he started to play well. And I think that's what you're going to see from a guy like Pace. I mean, at Cincinnati, again, that's big-time ball. They were really good for a while, and Luke Fickell was a great coach.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the biggest part of this deal is everybody doesn't get drafted. You can't draft everybody, but you got to fill rosters, and he's a guy that I think can come in and really help out. There's another name that wasn't said, Alan Ali, the offensive lineman. As a center and a guard, he's played a little bit of tackle. He's played guard a little bit in college, and he also was the starting center at TCU, which we know that story. That team was really good until they placed the Georgia Bulldogs. But other than that, they were really good for most of the season. And so I think that's another name offensively that can be a swing guard, center type of player. Now, who knows if he makes it or not, but if Austin Schlottman is the backup center, that's a guy that can maybe come in and say, look, I add more value because I can really give you some true guard play and center play. But no, I do like Pace. He's a dog. When you turn on the film, he's an absolute monster.
Yeah, my college roommate coached Ivan Pace at the University of Cincinnati, and I texted him after we signed Ivan Pace, I guess, in undrafted free agency, and I was like, dude, how does a guy like this go undrafted? And the first thing he said was, Ivan Pace is a dog. That's the first thing you need to know. But 2, he understands why he went undrafted because it's tough to figure out what position he can play. He blitzed a lot at inside linebacker. He didn't play much in coverage. Yeah, he's a headhunter, but how do you put that on the starting defense? That's why we got Brian Flores. He literally is the mastermind of finding guys and putting them in the right spot to succeed. Ivan Pace is going to be phenomenal on special teams starting off. I mean, you just got to put that aggressive, if he makes the team, you got to put that aggressiveness on kickoff and just say, hey, whoever's in the opposing jersey, go knock his head off really quick so we can get the ball back. But at the same time, I really like Ivan Pace. And then Andre Carter, just the size alone, you can't coach that. You look at his film and you say, man, this guy is very raw. Mike Smith, outside linebackers coach for this Minnesota Vikings team, is probably licking his chops right now saying, I got a guy who really doesn't know his potential, and he got 15.5 sacks last year. The sky's the limit for that guy. So 2 really good undrafted free agent pickups, which I thought were going to be going in the 4th or 5th round.
Yeah, it's great to see that the Vikings were still able to get value outside of just the 6-person 2023 draft class. Thank you so much to Ron and Gabe for giving us a nice comprehensive look at the NFL draft right here at TCOPC. Look for Vikings.com or the Vikings app as we begin rookie minicamp next week. We'll have more coverage for you, and we'll hear from all those guys next week. Thanks for tuning in.